Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you learn to make more money in less time and hopefully have a lot more fun. I'm your host, Paul Sanneman. I'm founder of Contractor Staffing Source, where we help contractors build great teams. My guest today is 𝗀𝗏 𝗏 from Sten Connect. Okay, so Kyle, I asked two questions. Why should people listen to you, and what is it you do?
Yeah, man, absolutely. Let me help one thing real quick. So it's actually Stenect, and that is you're good, no problem at all. But the word Stenect is actually two words together, which you had it pretty much right there, which is stay connected. So why people, I would say should listen to me. We build CRMs for clients that help people close more deals. That is our main bread and butter. Obviously, there's a whole lot of byproducts to that, but that is essentially also leading into what we do. We help people close more deals with our system and produce better KPIs, produce actual KPIs as well, and essentially help people nurture and produce a very robust but dialed in client experience through their entire production cycle, through their entire sales cycle, and essentially for the life cycle of a client.
Okay, so my experience of marketing, I'm going to put marketing companies in three buckets. All right, first marketing company. Look at all the awards we won. Look how cool it looks. It's amazing. You'll love it. It sort of looks based, right? Appearance
Mhm.
based. The second one says, I got you a zillion like links or whatever. Connect. They quote all these numbers, right? You had 5 zillion followers, blah, blah, blah. And the third kind of company actually works on ROI, which I'm a big fan of. Like, okay, you spent X dollars with us. How much did we make you? Is that, well, how do you work?
That is definitely a way that we would look at it is you spend a certain amount and I'm looking for you to be able to make more back, right?
Right.
Case in point, I've got a remodeling company that we did a build for early last year, right around probably we were finishing up, I'd say a year ago, pretty large development. And late in the year last year, that person had sent me a message and said that they actually made over 100 times over what they invested in the CRM for them.
That's
Which
good.
in that case, I'll give you some math. That was a big build. It was a 15K build. And so 100 times over, that's 1.5 just from the system having follow-up. So pretty solid, ROI just from a system like that. Will I claim 100% responsibility to that? No, because there are marketing partners that are involved. There's sales training that's involved and all that, but you got to have it all wrapped up into one in order to be able to claim some responsibility.
So, how do you differ from there's a bunch of marketing companies out there that quote produce leads. There's a bunch of AI based, like, we follow up on the lead, we track everything, we monitor the phone calls. Um, my experience is people are trying to bolt together a bunch of stuff.
Mhm.
Maybe it's Salesforce, maybe it's Go High Level, it's pick one, and they've got some kind of CRM, then they got some kind of project management system that sort of don't talk to each other, and it's sort of a disorganized mess.
Mhm.
Um, I'm assuming you help fix that.
Correct. Correct. Yes, very much so.
So, give me an example of somebody you worked with and what you did differently than the ordinary marketing company that says, "Hey, we got you a bunch of leads."
Yeah, good question. Well, first of all, so this Connect system, it is derived and built on the high level platform. It is so, I mean, it is a high level product for sure. I never hide that. No, always lead with transparency with it, largely because we're using that tool to create a solution. We're not leading with features, right? I think that's one thing that a lot of folks in the space can get misconstrued is they talk about it can do this, it can do this, it can do this, all these features, right? My goal is actually entirely different. Focus around a pipeline that helps people understand where leads are at through their sales cycle and essentially match that up with automations that make sense, whether it's delivering communication externally, delivering nurturing and notifications and reminders internally, or connecting it into other tools. Say, like, we just both you and I met at the JobTread conference. It could be JobTread, it could be any of the other platforms that are out there like that. But it all, to me, it comes down to a pipeline, a very well defined and built pipeline that then you elaborate on that and expand, where it needs to be expanded on to the point that rather than just trying to bolt something together, the way I look at it is designing it and getting an actual development, as a secondary of the design is more important. Oftentimes relate it to, in the remodeling world, you wouldn't go into a remodel without actually having a design put together and knowing what your steps are. Not to the point that I want to lead with this paralysis analysis concept, but get in there, know what you want to execute, and then actually execute. And so that planning of that execution is, I think, the biggest piece that a lot of folks actually don't get right.
Well, explain to me what that means because I'm not blaming Go High Level because I don't know how to use it, right? It's not the software's fault. It's just that it does a zillion things. I'm not sure what it does, and it sits there and I pay for it, not sure what it does. It's not its fault, it's my fault. I know what to do with it, right? So
Mhm.
um how do you actually, let's say I've got to pick a number, $3 million remodeling company, and I've got some, marketing companies give me leads. I've got some sales guys. My closing ratio sort of sucks. And it's not what I want. I want a predictable system that'll say if I spend X dollars, you get Y dollars back, not just hoping for the phone to ring. So how would you
Mhm.
work with somebody like that?
Yeah, good question. Well, first, there's a couple different pieces that I want to make sure we elaborate on. Earlier, I mentioned a very robust and elaborate client experience. So part of what we do is make sure that when we're working with contractors and people in the building, any kind of a building space, that when they are putting leads through their journey, that they're actually putting leads through a better client experience than they would get anywhere else, right? What that means is when leads come in, rather than just a either no response at all from a system or some very bland response, or when you're booking a site visit, and rather than just something very simple and easy that's, kind of canned, delivering out very, what I would call it, just personalized but elaborate material, right? And elaborate not to say like, oh, I'm full of fluff, but elaborate to say, hey, here's what we're about. Here's what we want you to know about us and our process. It could be PDFs, it could be videos. I oftentimes recommend both around that process. And ultimately, what you're actually getting throughout that entire sales process is a better client experience, which ultimately, in all reality, does actually drive a better ROI. A lot of times, you and I talked before we got on the show here with referrals. I actually see these systems actually produce referrals quite heavily because let's say I buy from a builder or a remodeler, and these systems are steadily just putting me through this experience that I'm like, wow, like there's serious substance behind this. This company's legit. Like they showed up in very nice, clean vehicles. They were presentable. Their pre-emails, their confirmations, everything was so well put together and branded. It's not like anything else there on the market or in their competition, right? In the area, to the point when I have a remodel done and I'm talking to my buddy, on the weekend or whatever it is, and he's like, "Hey, I'm looking for somebody to do some work." I've got one recommendation only. Like these are your guys that you want to be talking to, right? These kind of tools, if they're put together in that way, do create an experience like that. That's just one way. I mean, there's multiple ways I would say to answer that. Another one is simply by having nurture and rehash, what called rehash is what we actually call it, which is messaging designed to bring conversation back up from people who have fallen off the bandwagon throughout that entire sales cycle, with the intention of re-engaging and getting them back into the sales cycle. And so that kind of messaging, database reactivation, there's multiple different terms out there for it, but is another big piece that these systems should and can focus on with actually delivering messaging.
Mhm. So what separates you from the marketing company that just produces leads? Because there's a bunch of those out there.
Yeah, there are. Well, the big one is we don't produce leads. We make sure we keep the leads and track the leads, and obviously push those leads through an ecosystem that makes sense, through a process that makes sense. And that's going to be a big separator. Is there's I think in let's kind of spin it back. When we hire somebody in the remodeling space, they're going to have all their different trades that they're going to work with. They're going to have the electricians, the plumbers, the framers, and different people, right? If one person was responsible for doing all of that, their quality may not be as strong. That's a similar approach of what I look at when it comes to all of these services that a business realistically could leverage in order for them to handle growth. We aren't doing lead gen, but all we really focus on, and I say all, there's byproducts to this, is making sure people are organized, making sure they know where their leads are, and those leads are cultivated and moving through the ecosystem, through the sales process as automatically as possible, as a byproduct of people just doing the things that they need to do each day, calling the leads, setting appointments, sending proposals, doing things of that nature. That's what our system is helping with. So does that answer your question?
A little bit. So let's say that I'm generating leads, pick a number, I don't know, whatever, 10 a week or something. Now I get the leads, you help nurture those leads now
Mhm.
and develop a better product, customer experience. Do you help close or do you like work with the salespeople? Because there's a marketing which makes the phone ring. There's sales which takes the phone ring to a close.
Mhm.
Where are you involved in that experience?
Great question. I mean, we're involved once the lead comes in all the way through it being closed, but we're not involved directly, as in we are not handling the leads, like actually calling them. That's the client's job, but we are ultimately keeping people organized. Like it's the system, right? So like a product of what we are putting together is helping people maintain organization of their leads, knowing where they are, and again, keeping those people being nurtured too.
So what you're saying is a lot of companies produce the leads, but they waste the money on marketing because they don't nurture the leads well.
Or they do a very small percentage of nurture. They may talk to them one or two times. They may send a proposal, do one follow-up, and that's it, right? You and I very well both know that if we're going to look at 150,000, 250 might be, let's say we're in the coastal areas of the country and we're looking at $500,000 remodeling jobs. I may not be ready to buy right now. It might be 6 months before I'm ready to buy. And if I get a proposal from three different companies or five different companies today, and one is the one that's doing this, very elaborate home, like it's a very good homey experience throughout the entire process, and I'm not ready to buy today, and only that one is sending steady nurture, checking in, hey, Kyle, did you find a contractor that's going to help satisfy the needs of your project, right? And then checking in with nurture of that scale at 6 months when I'm now theoretically ready to buy, and company A is the only one doing that, they're very likely to be the ones that's actually going to get the business. Whereas all those others have long been forgotten by the person who actually received all those proposals.
Right. Okay. So obviously this works. You're successful at it. What does it cost, and how do I get in touch with you?
Yeah, great question. So our process is a little different, I'll say that, than most people in the space. We lead with a simple subscription model, 497 a month, and it's the entire ecosystem that we have. And then also we're doing a very heavy development approach as well. So ongoing support, if you will. What we have found is that a lot of people, we solve problems today, and then we realize, okay, or they realize, hey, I solved these things, this lead nurture problem. Now I have a different problem. I have a time problem with something else, or I just want to double down. I want to experience better things. And we actually have a process wrapped up into that where there's 2 hours of development every month built into that subscription. So whatever it is technically that you need help with, it could even be like new website landing pages, things of that nature. Very much skilled in doing those. So sure, you could almost blend the lines of like a marketing partner as well there, but not quite the case. And then also monthly one-on-ones to help go over KPIs, understand the process or understand the progress of the system, really to look at it in a sense of is this thing producing, right? So that's the consistent. The variable, is in the setup. Most oftentimes people are in like a single pipeline approach, which that's what I consider usually in like a 4 to 5K build in order to get a whole process built. That's all the content for the system to handle new leads, appointment booking, proposal related nurture, value add before the sale, value add after production's complete, integrations to and from in a two-way sync with the production or estimating or oftentimes production and estimating tool. So essentially like a full stop development. That's a typical pricing model. There's
Okay.
obviously ups and downs from there.
Now, what I see why you revalue is private equity is coming into the construction in a big way, hundreds of millions
Yeah,
bucks.
of course, of
And
course.
so they're jacking up the price of like Google clicks and leads and all that kind of stuff because they've got cash. And so the
Hmm.
cost per lead keeps going up in a lot of markets, right?
You could
S-
say that very so. Yeah.
Significantly. So
Yep.
obviously you want to get that. If you're going to pay $100 for a lead, you better get something out of it versus paying $20 for a lead, right? So what I see your system does is gets me maximum value out of the money I'm spending on marketing. Is that accurate?
That'd be a good way to put it. Yeah. Very good way to put it.
Because you're going to have to compete because you just can't throw money at it because private equity has way more money than you do. And if
This is
Google
true.
ads go from 50 to $100, oh well, they wouldn't care. And Google doesn't care. They just want to sell the most they can for the most money they can get, right?
Mhm.
So there's no ethics of, well, these are the little guys to help them out. It's like whoever gives me the most money will get the most leads, and that's fine. So I see you a way of competing with the price of advertising increasing because you got to make the most out of that one lead you do get, and you, especially if you're paying instead of $20, you're paying $100 for a lead, right?
Mhm.
Cool.
That's a
All
valid
right.
way to look at it. Very much so.
Okay. So if people want to get in touch with you, Kyle, how do they do that?
Yeah, I make it easy. My website's Connect, STANNECT.com. There's a form fill right there. And at the bottom of that, you can actually just straight up call the number that's on that page as well. Me or my team will pick up, and then you can text it too. I like to make it as easy as possible for people. Most people like to either pick up the phone, send a text, or just fill out a
Right.
form, and that's the way to do it.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
thanks a lot. I appreciate being here. So you're already spending money on advertising and marketing to get those leads. And my guess is a lot of people listening to you, there's a lot of stuff falling through the holes in the bucket because they don't have a system that can make the most out of the leads they're getting. And that's what I see you guys do, right?
that is correct. Yep.
Thanks, Kyle. I appreciate being here. It's a great service. I help people a ton.
Thank you.